Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Black Tower Podcast, a Wheel of Time podcast. I am Andrew.
I am Daniel.
And I am Moist. Also Josh.
I don't know if we want to hear about how moist you are, Josh.
There are at least a couple dozen people that just shuddered and almost threw up because they hate that word so much.
Unless you are actually in Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, no one is allowed to be moist.
You need anything moistened or slightly dampened?
I got a couple stamps with Queen Elizabeth on them.
All right.
Said, like, oh, the Queen, yes. It's nice to meet you. I've licked your stamps. What? I'm sorry?
Yeah, you and the whole rest of the country. You're saying that like it's a new thing. And Queen for like 1,000 years. How? What do you?
I think she's like the longest reigning monarch to date.
She is.
Which I mean, it helps that there's not an assassination plot every other year anymore.
It's also helpful that there are not a ton of other monarchs, and that she took over very young.
Yes. Good times.
But still, it's not an uncool achievement. Like, let's be honest.
Right? Oh,
so, before we do, well, actually, just to be safe, we should probably have the spoiler warning before I was going to say what I was going to say.
Indeed. Yes. Well, for everyone who is listening, this episode of the Black Tower podcast has spoilers all the way up through the series into A Memory of Light. Now, if you have not somehow read the first 3 books, but have read all of the rest of them, you're safe. If you missed out on the first 3 books and have read a number of the others, I don't know why you're doing that, but it doesn't contain any spoilers for the first 3 books specifically, though we will probably get into lots of stuff for the series, so definitely the person that we are delving into is present from book 4 all the way through book 12. So
we won't judge you. We won't judge you, but we will look at you most questioningly.
I mean,
indeed, there will be quite a number of eyebrow raises,
and
I'm pretty sure my pupils will transform into question marks.
And haughty sniffs, and
yes,
crossing our arms under our breasts,
and possible judgmental calf drinking.
Oh, maybe some curt nods.
Oh, you better believe it.
I'm just gonna make disappointed dad noises.
So basically just Hopper from Stranger Things? Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
all right.
As I'm sure the two of you have seen as well, it was very quickly and appreciatively brought to our discussion that we missed talking. We did not mention Simridge or Masana last episode in the list of female Forsaken.
It's true.
You're so right.
Found out that we got some no shame to anybody, but we got some freaks in the Discord. They're all about that tortured pleasure. That's fine.
No judgment.
Hey,
no judgment.
Hey, man.
It's whatever floats your boat and kills your water.
Whatever you're into, and that was a well placed sizzle, my friend.
There you go. But we do know that they are among the female Forsaken.
Yes.
I can't recall the exact moment why we didn't mention them, but
I think we were just in the moment. You know, you're in the moment, man. You can't not be in the moment.
Can't live in the
That's
past.
right.
But today, at least not directly, we are not talking about the Forsaken. Instead, we are talking about something that should be the absolute opposite of Forsaken. Because today, in part 3 of our series on the Great Captains, we're talking about none other than Pedron Niall, the Lord Captain Commander of the Children of the Light, the Whitecloak in chief.
A man you love to hate, but hate to love.
Actually, I mean, I didn't really hate Pedron that much because he didn't really ever do much other than send letters to people and look down at people
Yeah.
and
I mean,
complain about the
he's
High Inquisitor.
obviously a self-righteous prick, because you don't get to be a white cloak, period, without being a self-righteous prick, unless you're Galad, and then you are a prick, just
Eh,
not self-righteous.
He did
I mean,
some
an
other.
overdeveloped sense of right.
He did. He had a couple of some pretty dick moves.
Yeah,
Galad?
yeah.
Pedron Niall.
Oh yeah. Pedron
He
Niall
had
does.
some dick moves, man. He pulled some stuff, some stunt. He was stunting. I
All right, that's fair.
I mean that is true. He's responsible for some serious shit that's happened in the past. I'm talking about 1957 New Era,
nine.
where he instigated the beginning of the goddamn White Cloak War to expand into Altara.
Yes, he did.
You son of a bitch! Goddamn manifest destiny in the children of the
Well,
light.
and that he also so like again. Okay, so again, what did we establish about the great captains? So he was a great captain. You know, one of the 5 great captains. And we've established that these guys are smart. Like, they're the ones who can read fact and be like, this is happening. We need to be prepared for it. And he's a really great example of someone who is absolutely brilliant. I mean, like, he recognized the signs. He recognized the Dark One's touch on the world beyond the overzealous nature of the White Cloaks in general. And he recognized that the end battle is nigh. Tarman Gaidon is nigh. And he was one of the first few to really understand and embrace that sort of that revelation, that knowledge, that understanding.
Mm-hmm. And misinterpreted literally everything else about
and that's
the
what I was just
situation.
going to say. I was just going to say, like, and then end understanding. And then everything after that is very firmly squeezed through a Children of Light filter.
Yes.
In like the worst ways possible. So then he decides, hey, what is it? Like the end of the world? Tarman Gaidon is here? Okay, cool. All of the nations need to rally to the children, and we need to go out there and tell them to do that, or basically kill them so that they can't fight against us. Because
though, to be fair, I don't actually think Pedron was really the one who went ahead and said that people need to be killed. If not, what he really wanted to do was set up the Dragon Reborn to be the scariest thing in the world to all of the people who didn't yet realize that the last battle was coming. And then when they take him out, then they'll all flock to the Children of the Light, which, again, is still a stupid plan. Like, I'm not disagreeing that he is not very good at coming up with end of the world stopping plans here. But it was a number of his, let's just say, overzealous children that decided that meant, oh yeah, no, number of people need to die.
Well, and you know, it doesn't help that I know that all of our Twitter of Time peeps are gonna cringe when I say this, but it doesn't help that the organization of the Children of Light is sort of a perfect place for Dark Friends to hide.
Right?
It's sort of the perfect cover. So when you've got who was it? Bors was the Dark Friend, and he's over there purposely kind of screwing things up for Pedron, and you're just kind of like, what's he doing? Like, and again, we kind of asked the question of, you know, that we asked of Agelmar, like, how come he didn't see this earlier? And I think that he didn't need a Forsaken to be messing with him. I think that their that viewing everything through that prism, through that sort of dogma, he didn't need to question that his children were doing what he asked them to do, because why wouldn't they? They were the children of the light, the most holy of all orders.
Well, and of course, this is. Go ahead.
But I'm saying, going off of that, there, were those within the organization that, by far, we're not doing that. So, and for our listeners, a quick correction: though it's an important section of the book. Pedron Niall actually appears in the prologue to The Dragon Reborn.
Yes, he does. I got that wrong.
He
does show up in book 3.
Yeah, I mean, but he's only in the prologue. But it becomes important because of not only of him, but the interaction that other characters have.
Correct. Yes.
That where he gets the report from Jarrett Beyer that they're looking for basically Rand, who has proclaimed himself as the Dragon Reborn, gives him the report about the Seanchan attack in Falm, but says that it was the Aes Sedai aided by the Dark Friends, the Seanchan. And that there's chaos everywhere. And this makes Pedron believe that the 3 oaths of the Aes Sedai take are a lie and not true. Beyer, of course, goes in about Perrin and all that. Then Jacob Carradine? Jacob? Yeah, there we go. Jacob Carradine enters the room and is telling him more about everything that happened in Falm. And then we get the nice little greasy weasel of Ordith, who we know as Padden Fane, who emerges from a passage in the wall and is like, "Oh yeah, that's Ranulf Thor. He's a dark friend, and his 2 friends, they're dark friends too. And just everybody down there is a dark friend. You should just destroy it." Which fits
you get a dark friend. You get a dark friend. Everybody gets a dark friend.
But and then it's in a later part of the prologue that we find out that Carradine is very much a dark friend. As there's a Murdral waiting for them, and that Murdral is, of course, Saidar Haran.
Dun dun dun.
And gives him a pretty stiff threat. It's like, remember, Great Lord of the Dark told you better kill Rand al'Thor. Oh, and for every month you don't, I'm going to kill someone of your blood. And then leave.
Which, of course, is hilarious because, Jacob Carradine, looks at that threat and just goes, there are, 2, maybe 3 people of my family that I like.
But I don't really love them that much.
How long is it going to take him to get to those ones?
Yeah. And how long before he gets to me? Actually, I think as long as I fake caring, it'll actually buy me some time.
Right.
Most of my family's dark friends anyway. That's why I left them. So
Yep. Which it is interesting going back to the just perfect breeding ground for dark friends. Again, the Fortress of the Light and the White Tower are just the perfect places to go ahead and introduce dark friends, because literally not only everyone outside, they have these influences and these reputations as being just the most against the darkness, having these attitudes that are so against the dark, as well as inside. No one can even imagine that the Black Aja exists.
Yeah.
And no one within the Fortress of the Light can even imagine that some dark friend could step over the threshold of the fortress. And looking back at it, of course there are. Are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at it from the pure fantasy genre, it's that, that kind of stereotypical plot device or interesting element of those that proclaim to be the most holy actually being some of the worst. But there's also the interesting Southern Christian aspect that Robert Jordan would have definitely been exposed to. That kind of heavy advice against that kind of hubris. There's one passage from the Bible I can think of right now that says, professing themselves wise, they became fools. And that's pretty much the same thing, is by saying that, oh, we're so holy and we're following the Creator's path, and nothing can do any evil to us, and we can't do any evil. They very quickly get into this arrogant power hold.
Do you know?
Oh yeah,
And it's the same with the White Tower. The Aes Sedai are so arrogant; they know everything. It literally takes half of the world breaking with Rand as the new dragon for them to even start realizing, actually, we may not know anything. We may not know a lot. And even then, most of them are still
except that they would never admit such a thing.
Oh yeah.
In their own heart of hearts, they're like, "Oh."
The funny
fuck.
thing is the first time reading through it, I hated the Children of Light. I was very Emmons Field in my understanding of the Aes Sedai, in that I did not trust them. So when they were like, "Oh, we're gonna go meet the Aes Sedai," and I was like, okay, so there's some good ones, there's some bad ones. You don't know which is which. Be careful. But I was legit shocked when it was revealed that there were Dark Friends and there was a Black Aja, and I was just like, like the first time just reading, and I think about it now, and I like, just like we thought, yeah, it's a perfect place for Dark Friends to hide. So why was I surprised? I don't know, but it made for some damn good reading, and I am grateful to that experience to this day.
Indeed. I actually really appreciate that you had that, because I will admit that I did not have that experience, because like literally throughout the first book, it makes it very, very clear.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, sure.
Let me
so clear. How could you miss that, Josh?
Well, No. Rand and Matt are running around, and there's a dark friend in every city and village and farm they go to. And so pretty quickly I was just like, oh yeah, there's dark friends everywhere. I mean, like, clearly not everyone is a dark friend, but there is a dark friend presence everywhere. And so when they were like, oh yeah, no, there's definitely a Black Aja, I was like, yup. White Tower includes everywhere. Great.
See, like, I was kind of the same way when I was reading through all that. I was like, okay, well, there's dark friends everywhere, but it could also be because they're Taviran. And then things like this with Carradine happen. I'm like, nah, they're just fucking everywhere. It's like rats.
Well, and that was the thing. Like with the Inquisitors, I got more of a Shadar Logothian type feel. They were like, that I could see that sort of path. So I knew they were bad guys. Like there wasn't any part of me that was like, oh, these are really good guys. We should trust these guys.
But just because they are bad guys does not mean they are bad.
Thank you, Satan.
Guys. It's pronounced Satine. Oh man, what a great part of that movie. Anyway, continue.
Anyway, no, go.
But yeah, no, Asunawa was gross. Just gross.
So
literally my least favorite Whitecloak, and that is including you, Bayar, and including you, Dane. Go fuck yourselves. But Asunawa is the worst.
It's no coincidence that Dane rhymes with stain.
Shout out to our Twitter of Time Peeps at Child Bornald. Oh yeah.
Be fair.
Oh yeah.
Be fair. For the longest, Dane and Hopper have been going at it, and they've been giving each other so much crap, and it's awesome. So funny. It's so
dude,
funny.
I love it.
And it's like
it's also at Child BR. Mm-hmm. He's there too. So those guys are hilarious. If you guys are not following them, you really should, because they're fantastic. They're absolutely wonderful.
There is a lot of humor that happens with them.
Hopper and all them are doing that with, or is it Bayer?
No, Bayer he's been AFK for a little bit. He came back today, I think. But no, it's definitely Dane that has been back and forth with Hopper.
But to bring our way back to the Lord Captain Commander for now.
Indubitably.
something now. One thing that they have is that we learn about part of his history that I actually really do respect is his performance as a part of the Grand Alliance during the IL War,
Yes.
where he assisted. He was one of the more notable generals that made up the Grand Alliance, and they pushed the IL back to the waist. And it was the army that Pedron. I don't know why I said like I went to go Pedro. I don't know why that Pedron Niall led that held
Senor
the
Pedron Niall.
IL.
See, it's fun to say. It's fun to say. Ha!
No, I agreed.
But they managed to hold the IL back at the foothills of Kinslayer's dagger.
Yes.
That is no small feat
No.
by any means. And it
this
seems
is
to me that is the main reason he was considered one of the 5 great captains.
Yes.
Indeed.
That's exactly where he earned that title. And I was going to say that's one of the reasons I love him, because as a tactician, as a general, as a dude who just won't die. Like he's they even describe him in the book as being all bone and sinew. Like they don't even know how this dude is so tough and so frail at the same time. And he's just one of the most badass guys ever, but he's such a white cloak. It's just like, oh,
Yes.
dude.
Though I will also admit that he really is the least like white cloaky of all of the white cloaks. He's so much smarter than all of the rest of them that he stands there and goes, yeah.
Yes.
Dark friends, dark friends, dark friends, dark friends. Cool. Get out of my office. And then once they leave, he's like, okay, cool. So these guys aren't dark friends. They're actually just doing this. These guys aren't dark friends. They're actually just doing this. Clearly, the Aes Sedai are not all dark friends because these are actual dark friends that are Aes Sedai. So I will pretend to continue to tout this all Aes Sedai are dark friends thing, but in the quiet of my own office, not all the Aes Sedai are dark friends.
No, and not only that, but his methods of uniting the people, like we just kind of discussed earlier, his method was, we're going to manipulate the people because I recognize that we need people to fight at the last battle. I mean, that you can't get around that. We need an army. And if we go around executing anybody who's not going to fight with us, that's just not going to work. That decreases our chances of surviving this with every, person who's executed. Which, again, doesn't make sense because he literally wants to take the Dragon Reborn, who is, in all prophecies, the person who will make or break Tarman Kaidan, and he wants to, again, manipulate him and be like, yep, we're gonna handle this ourselves, and then we're gonna march up to the boar and we're gonna take care of this ourselves. It's just a very nearsighted sort of strategy to have.
Hubris.
Yep. I wonder if Grendel was like, I don't really even need to do anything with this guy, do I? No? Cool. I'll focus on the other ones.
Pretty sure that's exactly how that conversation went down. Like, I could do like 1 or 2 things, but he's literally doing it a lot better by himself, as much as I hate to admit. Like, there's no weave of compulsion that can result in what the hell's going on here. I'd say just let him go for it.
This guy's awesome.
Children of the light, more like servants of the darkness.
Darkness!
Darkness falls across the fortress of the light. The midnight hour is close to the fight.
Or close to the hand.
I don't know. I got nothing more.
It was a valid effort, and I applaud you, sir. He was a smart guy, and one of the biggest maneuvers of this is when he was able to simultaneously woo Galad, who, again, is another one of those that I hate to love and I love to hate, because he too is like, you just can't get around the fact that the dude has skill. But while he's courting Galad and trying to convince him, hey, we like you, you're a good guy, he's able to visit Morghese, who is currently on the lam, and convince her, and let's talk about who Morghese is for a second. She was a no nonsense, tough as nails queen of Andor who knew her stuff. She was very, very competent and very capable, and he was able to sort of, pin her down in negotiations and say, "Hey, we'll help you get the throne back, but you've got to give us free reign of Andor." And she was like, fine. And that was like a huge stroke in favor to the children, because now they had reign over Andor, essentially, and they had a commitment from Morghese that the Andoran army would ride with the children and Tarman Gaden. And that already right there that's nothing to sneeze at. So that was a pretty
Well, yeah, but let's not forget exactly what Morghese did after she signed the paper and said, yeah, I'll make sure all that happens. She immediately, and by the laws of Andor, she's the only one who needs to hear it, renounced her title as queen and passed it on to Elaine.
Yep, absolutely.
And I'm sure that would have, they're like, well, the queen signed this, and be like, that's our queen. Not her. She was, but she renounced the title.
Exactly.
She's not the queen.
So,
and by the way,
she did some really fucked up stuff before she left. So nah,
we're not quite too happy. Yeah.
Well, and to be fair, that's probably why she made that deal, because A, she knew it would never be honored. B, half the people in the world already thought she was dead anyway. And C,
actually, hold on. Let's be clear on when that actually happened. When she actually signs the treaty, actually does think that what she's going to do is ride at the head of a column of Whitecloaks, go take back Andor from the Dragon Reborn, and then figure out a way out of that deal once she's back on the Lion Throne. It's actually not until, and spoiler alert, this is probably the biggest thing that we're going to talk about as far as Pedron Niall, he gets murdered by his own people. And now
kind of happened
that Valda goes ahead and takes over the Children of the Light, she goes, yeah, this isn't happening. Now that I'm like having to deal with another person who I do not trust in any way, shape, or form, like even more than I didn't trust Lord Niall.
Yeah.
Like, now there's no way any of this is happening. I'm not getting my crown back. I'm not getting my country back. I am letting all of this go to Elaine. And I'm done. But of course, she doesn't actually renounce it until Pedron is dead. So it is interesting that she definitely thinks that she's going to have to get out of this treaty in the long run, and then goes, oh, wait, everything's changed. Now I'm just done, and this treaty's not going to happen at all.
Yep. No, and you're right. But I mean, and that's the thing, is that Lord Captain Commander Niall, he's solid, man. He knows what he's doing, and he knows how to maneuver.
He does.
And it's interesting to see how he interacts with the rest of the world, and how the world interacts with him, I guess. They're just as cautious of him as they are Aes Sedai. And I think it's a real interesting take on how people handle that stuff.
Yep. I also think that it's interesting that, of course, obviously it would not actually be that interesting of a book necessarily, but just actually seeing the play for years and years and years that Pedron Niall and Morghese Turkand would have had Pedron stayed alive and they had gone and taken back Andor. Like, what I would have loved to see that play, like not in book form, because that just sounds boring as shit. But like, that would have just the characters that they have made of Pedron and Morghese are two of the biggest powerhouses politically, that it would be crazy to watch them outmaneuver each other over this treaty in the long
that's
run.
actually a really great bit of brain candy, and I know we're talking
Right?
like I know when I say the words fanfic, a lot of people immediately go to a certain area. However, that actually only makes up like a very small percentage of all the fanfic out there. And I'm actually now thinking
Indeed.
about how fun that would be as a fan to read a fanfic where, just like you said, Niall survives and he and Morghese march up to Andor, capture the throne back, and then she holds some sort of council to immediately begin plotting and planning to get the children out. And that'd be a lot of fun to explore. That's a real fun thing to sort of think about.
So
Indeed. It's also, of course, I mean, the whole story would have to be different. So it's completely a pipe dream in the world that
Right.
has been created. Because, of course, Morghese walks up to Andor and tries to take it back. Rand looks at her and goes, "Wait, you're alive? Fuck this. Have your throne back."
Exactly.
And then, of course, immediately starts and helps her get rid of the Children of the Light. So again, the whole world has to be different to actually create this fanfic. But like, again, those are two of the coolest characters. Like, Pedron shows that he is incredibly smart, incredibly cunning, and incredibly maneuvering when it comes to subjects of state, as is Morghese. And so just watching the two of them play off each other in this situation that is, clearly starts in Pedron's favor, but at the same time, he also presumably has to go back to the Fortress of the Light at some point in Amadicia. And she now has free reign to go ahead and have a leg up on the competition. It would be a very interesting thing, because that is what both of them do best. And of course, we never actually see Pedron fight anyone in the books, because he is so at the end of that when we finally do see him join the story. And then, of course, before any fighting can be done that he would take part in, he is snuffed from the story. But again, the parts that we do see and the things that we do know about Pedron are that he is very good at orders and strategy and things related to politics.
Well, and there's an idea, when you in martial arts and in combat training and in these kinds of things, there's an idea that as you get older, of course, a 40, 50, 60-year-old man is not going to be able to keep up with someone who's 25, 23. The new, stronger, younger guys, they're just a lot stronger. They just are. However, they have more experience, they have more cunning, they have more wisdom. And so they start to say things like, you rely less on the physical and more on the mental aspect of who is your enemy and how are you going to face them. And I think Pedron Niall is a really great example of this, because like I said, when they describe him as being all bone and sinew, so frail, but jeez, the dude is just like, how is he still so sharp? And he's sharp as a tack. He is very capable, very competent. And if he were not, if he didn't push everything through that Children of the Light filter, man, he'd be someone who is sincerely formidable. And he already is sincerely formidable.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So it's just I find him to be a very compelling character. It's almost like when you look at like a Marvel character, you say, oh man, these guys, they're so strong, they're so powerful, but they have a weakness. They have something that they have to overcome, some sort of, dark spot in their history that they have to grow around and fight around and work to overcome. And this would be, I would say, this would be the weakness for the Lord Captain Commander here is that Children of the Light filter that he just can't see past, and so that limits him in a number of ways. Like I don't think he has the ability to look at Rand and go, okay, you know what, you're the dragon. I mean, it's clear as day, you're the dragon reborn, you're the one who's going to lead our forces to Tarman Gaidan. Okay, you know what, the Children of Light are at your disposal. Now, had he said that, he might have been executed on the spot. he might have been killed a lot sooner.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
And it's just like you were even saying earlier, where he had the little council and he was like, look, all the Aes Sedai are not bad guys. Just a lot of them kind of suck. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of them that are Dark Friends. However, and I'm pretty sure they're lying about the 3 oaths. I'm pretty sure they're just really terrible people. However, they're not Dark Friends, so we can't just immediately put them all to the question. But he only said that around his most trusted people because he didn't want.
Yep.
Yeah.
Only to one. He only says it to one person. And it's so great because then, of course, that one person starts running around with more gays, and you're like,
Yep.
Yes. Oh, man. The little secretary.
Yeah, who eventually... Is that the one that eventually joins up with Perrin?
Yes, because Perrin meets up with the Morghese and her entire party,
and he becomes
when Fail and Morghese get
I can't remember that dude's
kidnapped,
name, and it's gonna bother me now. The dude,
which one?
The dude who
Towns?
joins Perrin and becomes his little spy master guy.
So that is Bulwer.
Yes.
Yes.
Bulwer.
What a great
he was fun.
dude.
He was fun. I loved the time, and I tangent. Heyo. Hashtag tangent. This tangent has been brought to you by Bang Energy Drink. Whether it's unicorn rainbow or peach mango, Bang has got you. Do you think that?
Oh, you fucked up. You got to get the black cherry.
You know what? I was going to let you do black cherry vanilla. Jeez.
That's what I do. That's my
No,
cocaine.
I like that. Mr. Bulwer comes up to Perry and he's like, I heard some guys over there talking about some stuff, and it's pretty legit. Maybe we should go check it out. And Perrin's like, you just happened to hear about that, huh? And he's going, yeah, weirdest thing. And then he follows up on a couple of his leads and finds out there's solid intel. And so Perrin just kind of sits him down and goes, okay, look, I know you know shit. Don't pretend like you don't. Not to me. I know that you know things. I'm not going to be upset about it. Just keep it coming and we'll be just fine.
Yep. And of course, I also love how right at the beginning, Perrin is so against going ahead and using any of these people at all. He's like, I don't need servants. I don't need whatever. I'm not a lord. Fail, can you just stop doing this? And she's like, no. We have a secretary now. And he's like, I don't fucking need a secretary. Do you know how many orders I go ahead and put out? Not enough to not do it with my own mouth. And then Bulwer comes up and he's like, so I have a lot of really good information. And Perrin's like, so I don't need a secretary, but we're just going to continue to pretend that you are my secretary because what you are is scarier.
No, and I love Perrin's interaction for that very reason, because he, again, super smart guy. And he knows, okay, this is a good thing. I should really I should give up the whatever the stigma in my head is that tells me I don't need this or I shouldn't have this, and I'm going to go for it and I'm going to own it. And it's always a lot of fun when parent does that.
Yep. Indeed.
And I've seen a lot of people, and I'm going to call out our Twitter of Time folks, because I've seen a lot of people with this opinion, and I'd like to get your take on it. The opinion is that the Children of the Light can be clipped from the show because they don't really have much of a story arc. And I want to just say for the record, I wholeheartedly disagree. And I think that if the Children of the Light were not in the TV show, I think it would be severely, a very, very, very severely sad experience for me. Because I
actually agree, wholeheartedly. Though I will also say that they don't need to be as large as they are in the books.
For sure.
I definitely, if they are looking for fat to trim, then definitely there are a number of Whitecloak, Children of the Light, Fortress of the Light things that can definitely be shortened and or cut. But again, they are definitely a huge piece of the world building of Randland, and therefore definitely should be included. Though their full representation in the books does not necessarily need to be there. But I would also be 100% with you that I would be sad if they were not a part
and
of
I
the story.
agree with trimming the fat. That's the nature of the beast when you're converting a book to film. And I think filmmakers are a lot more capable nowadays. They can do a lot more on screen than they used to be able to, so they can translate stories much better than they used to. But I mean, there are still things that you just can't get around. I mean, there are some things you just can't do.
Yep.
And that's fine. And I get that. And quite frankly, if we were going to sit there and have full episodes of, the heads of states in 5 different countries meeting and discussing and blah, 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 like there are in the books. I mean, that's not going to be an exciting TV show to watch. That's going to be watching, episode 2, Star Wars episode 2 all over again. And we're like, nobody cares about the politics. Make it a part of the story, but don't focus on that. So anytime you're changing the focus, but in a book, we can read that and go, wow, this is riveting, because not only are we getting the people sitting there talking, but we're getting how they're feeling, what their maneuvers are, what they're betting on, what they're banking on, what they're hoping for. And do they get it? Do they not get it? We don't know. And we just got to keep reading to find out. But those interactions don't translate too well most of the time.
So my 2 cents on the Whitecloak thing.
Nope.
Oh, okay. I'll go back to my corner.
Yeah, you go back in your corner. I think he was saying nope to me.
Wait, no, I want to hear it.
Oh, no, I was going to say it. You think I was really going to let you note me out of saying something on the podcast? You know how many times I don't let myself note myself out of saying things on the podcast?
Yeah, boy.
It's a never-ending struggle. Anyway, I agree that they should not be cut out.
The never-ending struggle.
Oh, Creator, help us.
Oh, boy.
The Dark One's the only one who can save you now, Andrew.
How do you call Shy-Tan? Was it 666?
Yes.
Instead of 911?
Yeah.
Something like that.
But I do agree that they should not be cut out from the series entirely. But looking at, and all this is from the assumption that there are groups or characters or event or things that are going to have to be cut just because of the sheer size of the series. I could easily see them relegate it down to the key plot points that they're involved in. That being, like their the event between Perrin and Egwene and the children and Hopper. That's a very big point. Um, and then, of course, the
Yes.
ensuing rescue conducted by Nynaeve, Lan, and Moraine. Things like that, I could see staying in. Now, like little sections, and depending on how many hints they want to give them, but like little sections, like where Rand challenges to the 2 or 3 White Cloaks that are there, and Bear Lane. That I could that'd be it depends on how much like sneaky kind of like, hey, we want to give you a hint for those of you that are picking up on what's being told, that hey, he's been channeling this whole time, or and so that way people that have only watched the TV show and don't really read the series could still have that kind of like motherfucker kind of moment. But at the same time, it's not that important. It's something that we appreciate as being readers and long-term fans of the series, but something that can be cut out.
Yeah.
I mean, there are groups that, unfortunate enough as it is to say, they all contribute to the story, but their contributions or their scenes are so either short or minor in the grand scheme of things that they're not really necessary for the televised version of the series.
Right.
Especially when there's so many other ways to.
For example, I don't necessarily agree, or I'm not necessarily saying that this would be the best way to do it, but for example, if you went ahead and combined Child Bayar and Child Dane, you could easily get away with actually just doing all of Bayar's stuff with Dane and cutting out the fact that Bayar actually goes to Dane and tells him about his father's death. You could also cut out the fact that, like, I mean, again, and I'm not saying that this is the right way to do it necessarily, but it would actually cut out a lot of time if literally you just don't have Pedron. You could 100% just have Valda be the leader of the Child of the Light from the get-go. Now, again, is that better? No, it's absolutely not better, but is it shorter?
Right.
I mean, the way I look at it is that they're going to have the Children of the Light in there anyway. And Pedron is someone that we only see in his internal monologues and orders that he issues to the Children of the Light, things he says, is instead of actually having the physical character, when you see the White Cloaks or you see the Children of the Light, whatever you want to call them, you just say like, oh, Lord Captain Commander Niall has ordered that we do this. So you still have the character involved, but you're not wasting screen time on one guy
who he is
sitting there thinking
about
an actual being.
I agree,
because he does it's his inner monologues that give the reader a lot of information and make him important to the story, but in the end of it, all of this important stuff he's been working for, trying to make happen, trying to watch for, trying to prepare the children for, and himself seeking the glory of as he believes to be the one that would lead the forces of good into Armageddon under the banner of the Children of the Light, is ultimately for not because one knife does him in, and everything that he has tried to plan or think is going to happen doesn't happen.
And that's
like his most I hate to say this, but I don't at the same time. Pedron Niall's most important activity in the entire series is being the plot device that allows Valda to become the Lord Captain Commander of the Children of the Light. That is the most important thing he does.
Yeah, correct. I will say, just in kind of hearing you guys talk through it, I thought of something that made me kind of think about it for a second and go, okay, I think that Pedron is actually a bit more of an important character than maybe I gave him credit for, because with his death signals an entire shift, an entire change in how the Children of the Light behave, how they feel to the rest of the world, how they interact with the rest of the world, and what their role in the story is. So before, it's like, as you said, it's Lord Captain Commander Niall wants to unite everybody, march to Tarmangaiden, take the glory for himself and say, look, the Children of the Light have saved you. And he wants to set up, a presence for the Children of the Light. He's planning ahead. He's setting a precedence. He's building a foundation to make sure that the children survive the eternities, right? He wants to be the children. He wants to be the one who led the children to be the leader of the world. When that changes, you no longer have a children of the light who want to unify the lands and lead everyone to Tarman Gaidon. You have a children of the light who, as we kind of discussed earlier, who said, join us or die. And if you don't join us, we will kill you as dark friends, and then we will conquer in Tarman Gaidon anyway. And it's much less well thought out, much less planned, and much less good or smart.
It's far less pronounced before the death of Pedron Niall. However, the Lord Captain's under Pedron, because as much as it looks like he would have good control of his troops, he does his terms of maneuvering them, making sure they're where they're supposed to be. But in terms of their conduct with the populace, the general Whitecloak mentality seems to be, well, we don't care, because the only people that would say we're doing wrong or refuse us are dark friends, and that's who we're after anyway. And that's pretty much their sentiment throughout the entire series, in the way I read it, until we get Galad defeating Valda and finally becoming a decent character that I don't hate to see the name of.
Yeah.
No, it is correct. But again, it is definitely a difference of attitude from the top. Now, again, in my reading of it, I was definitely sort of sitting there being like, okay, well, most of Valda's guys, or most of the White Cloak captains, are of this incredibly self-righteous mindset, and they just walk around like they own every town that they're in, and they just do what they want, and anybody who refuses them is a dark friend, and they either imprison them, beat them, kill them, whatever it is that they do. But there are still some captains who we do actually see and follow and whatnot, that are guys like Joffrey Bornhold, who actually still take the attitude that Pedron has of, yes, there are a lot of dark friends out there. Yes, anybody who actually goes ahead and tells us we can't do what we want to do is against us, and we need to do something about them. But it's not necessarily always kill, not necessarily always maim, not necessarily always put to the question. With the takeover from Pedron of Valda taking over, now it's a systemic top-down attitude of what those captains were already doing. And again, I think that from the get-go, most of the White Cloaks that you actually run into, most of the footmen that you actually see, already have that attitude. But it is still a change when that happens. Now, again, do I think that's important for the television show, that there is actually a change? Not really, which is one of the reasons that, again, I think that it would be a less interesting story to not have Valda take the power from Niall. But at the same time, you could kind of just cut Niall from the story and have Valda be there from the beginning and have it be effectively the same story, as far as how the White Cloaks act.
Well, and, a really good plot device for that is, using, maybe he's not on screen, like Andrew was saying, but maybe he's, something that stops him from doing, the White Cloaks are coming in to do something, and you say, I'm gonna make sure that Lord Captain Commander Niall hears about this, and they go, okay, fine, we're backing off for now, and I could just see like a very intense scene where, Valda comes out and he's about ready to do something shady, and they're like, I'm gonna tell Lord Captain Commander Niall, and he's like, yeah, guess what? Niall's not in the picture anymore. I'm Lord Captain Commander now. And these guys just let it sink in how royally screwed they totally are. And you can still get the same point across, and you can still illustrate the shift there. I think that's a really excellent point.
But yeah,
I would agree. So, final thoughts, I think, on Pedron Niall.
I'll go first. Again, he's a guy that I love to hate and I hate to love, but I do love him and I do hate him. I think he's just brilliant, but God, just the direction he points his brilliance is just painful to read sometimes. But I like the character. I like his influence on the world, and I like that. I like how capable he is, and I like, he deserves the title of one of the great captains. Absolutely, I feel like he absolutely earned that. He absolutely deserves that title, and as a leader, he's I think he's one of the brightest children of the light. But
you hurt me so much, Josh.
But no, I think he makes the world a more believable place. I think Randland is more believable with characters like Pedron Niall, because the good guys aren't always smart and the bad guys aren't always dumb. And then there are people who are not all good or all bad, and they're incredibly capable people. And, sometimes it helps and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it helps, like when he sent a legion of the children to Falm to help with the Sanchin attack. And then sometimes it doesn't help, like when he
sent a regiment of Whitecloaks to Falm to get murdered by Sean.
I mean, exactly. That exactly. So
yeah, no, I agree.
So yeah, and that's to quote Forrest Gump. That's all I got to say about that.
In my humble opinion, I think that Pedron is a good character who really feels very believable. He is very much under the thumb of his thoughts on other people, being a white cloak and being a part of this organization that is so wrong-headed, yet obviously at some point were very much in the right. Like, their whole entire existence was at some point a good thought.
Exactly.
And just got corrupted along the way. And he is at the end of that era, coming into a situation where he is leading this virtuous organization that has been completely corrupted by its own pride, its own arrogance, by dark friends within its ranks, all of this different stuff. And I think that he is definitely one of the smartest people that we see in the books. And yet, it's also wonderful that with all of his intelligence and all of his cleverness, again, through that lens of the organization that he is part of, he just can't seem to get anything right.
Yeah.
And again, I think that characters like that are great in terms of the fact that if you look at the story from Niall's perspective, if you look at what's going on in Randland from Niall's perspective, he is absolutely doing his best to act optimally.
Oh, yeah.
Which is exactly what you want your characters to do. And yet he fails so hard because we know that he's not actually acting optimally. And any character that can actually cause conflict by doing the best that they think they can do just makes stories better.
Agreed. And to echo back what you're saying about they're an organization with a good start, like it was a good idea in the beginning. Yeah, they had the exact same conclusion that the Aes Sedai of the Red Aja had. They just expanded it to all channelers, not just male channelers. And that's because the 100 companions are responsible for male channelers going nuts. So again,
yeah,
it was a good idea at the time, but it's as you said, it was fundamentally flawed. Only a Sith deals in absolutes. They must be.
which is funny because that statement is not absolute.
Right.
Wait, fuck.
Shit. Damn it. Obi-Wan's a Sith. I knew it.
Andrew,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
So I think Pedron Niall is a good character. Is the perfect character for the plot device that his character is. For the world building aspect that he brings to us. I think story wise, we don't get to see a lot of what Pedron does that actually winds up beyond just his sheer presence, helping rein in some of the Children of the Light. Because things are undoubtedly worse with the children after his death and the takeover of Valda, who is a shitbag of a person anyway. But
The shittiest of bags.
yeah. For me, a lot of the times, and for those of you that enjoy more of the world building and the politicking kind of stuff, aspects of fantasy books, and that's the kind of stuff you look for, Pedron is the best character in the entire series, I think, for that. Well, as long as he's around. After then, you have to find someone else.
Yeah.
But for while he's around, when it comes to Pedron's point of view, you get this. It's kind of nice because it's almost like you get to see this broad picture. Yes, it's only from the Children of the Light perspective, but you get to pull back and look at, well, this is what's going on in Toman Head, and this is what's going on here. And hey, there's a false dragon down in Tyr, but hey, there's also a false dragon, over here. And hey, there's a guy just proclaimed himself the dragon in Foam, and you kind of get to see all that come together, and you get the nice backstory of a combat-wise, calm, collected man. I get the overall impression from Pedron that he was far more better at commanding men in battle still than he was ever in politics, but he applies the same strategy, which is why he's as good as he is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in the way you see, to me, the way you see him act, now that he's no longer directly involved in combat, now that he's not riding out on patrols, leading men into battles where he's leading from the rear, it almost seems like earning the moniker of a great captain and rising to the rank of Lord Captain and Commander has been a serious blow to the soul of Pedron Niall, because he can no longer easily attain the glory and the fame and the kind of pat on the backs that he's enjoyed for pretty much the entirety of his career. Now, instead of it just being based on his virtue, it's got to be, well, did the children do what they should have done? And that's the overall impression I get. Is a man that was far happier being a captain or a company, a Lord Captain in the field than he ever was as Lord Captain Commander. But through his sense of duty, was doing the best he could. And the last thing that I have to say on him is there's still that interesting thought that he could have been bound to the wheel at his death.
Yes.
Because they describe that he sees a gray mist and him leading the charge in addition to his memory fading. And we know from Alter Pendrag Tonreal that new people can be bound to the will based on uncommon heroism. The argument for is his status as a great captain and how much he was respected and feared. I think it's enough in a gray area where I could believe it one way or the other. I like to think that as a reward for him trying to do the best he can his entire life, whether it's for the absolute best reasons or not, does allow him to be bound to the will, that kind of honor, if that's what he wants. Because there's no clear indication that it matters how good or bad of a person you are, as we see with Archer Penn.
Exactly.
He's far from the best person, but is still one of the most heralded souls bound to the will.
Dare you?
Yeah. Hate to break the truth to you, Dad.
No, but you're absolutely right. I love that little bit of an addition there where it says, no, he was that awesome and he was that true and that honorable when it came to his beliefs that, he may not have been the most savory of characters, but he still got the attention of the powers that be, and as you said, possibly bound to the wheel. I love that. I love that.
I like it.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of in the same realm of possibility that Patton Fane may be dead. He may not be.
Yes.
Which is equally as terrifying as uplifting
no.
the thought of Pedron Niall.
No. Patton Fane is 100% death, or is 100% dead. However,
Okay, Mashadar, my bad.
Mashadar,
Yes.
man, those things will live on forever.
Is now taking over part of the land of Shao Ghul. Wouldn't it be something if there was like ever to be like a follow-on series and all of Shao Ghul is now worse because now the entire boar and everything is surrounded by Mashadar.
Oh. Well,
Fantastic.
I don't know, because Mashadar was also fighting against the Dark Ones, so that
why
seems
not
like
take
just
over
an
his
extra layer of protection, unless it starts growing.
Well, yeah, I imagine he'd want to take over Shao Ghul, and the entire time he'd be trying to penetrate the Dark One's taint through the boar
Giggity.
and finally take over as the supreme evil and take full reign of the true source, which would allow him to spread as far as he wanted and absorb all the souls in the world and bring them into his lonely dark domain.
Well,
and he could probably use the power to let Mosh and Shen out of the ways, and they could have a tea party of blood so sweet.
that is a terrifying thought. Thank you. I will have nightmares.
Can we just
Wheel of Time Horror Stories, brought to you by the Black.
I love it. It's perfect.
I want to go back to sleep someday.
There is no sleep for you now.
Can't sleep.
God.
Can't sleep. Mashadar will eat me. Can't sleep. Mashadar will eat me.
So I think that pretty much covers it. So for those of you that have been so kind to listen to these series,
Yes.
the series so far, as you did last time, let us know if there's anything that you think we missed out, something we didn't mention that we should have. There's a couple other things that Pedron was involved with that we didn't talk about that were actually that can be considered very important. They could equally, I think, be considered as plot devices to explain why something didn't happen that you fully expected to, like him refusing to allow the Children of the Light to attack the Saladar Aes Sedai. I'm sorry, I'm going to call that. That seems like plot device to explain why they won't, not something that would actually make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
But things like that, if there's anything you think we missed or didn't cover enough or whatever, as always, you are more than welcome to tweet at us, to email us, to, I don't know, put it into a song, get Andral to mix it down for you.
Indeed.
Yes. It's quite good.
And if you need help with the vocals, our very own Daniel here can help you.
Also quite good.
And Josh and I, at the very least, will clap in the background.
And drink.
Nice.
Yeah, and drink.
On 1 and 3 or 2 and 4, because this is very important information you know.
Excellent.
All right,
Excellent.
we're going 1 and 3. Let's
Well
go.
done. Well done.
Awesome. But for all of us here at the Black Tower podcast, I have been Daniel.
I have been Josh.
And I have been Andrew.
And we hope that you enjoyed our third episode in our 5-part series about the 5 great captains. We hope that you enjoyed our insights, and we'd love to hear yours. But until next week, have a lovely rest of your evening, weekend, all of that good stuff. And we'll be back next week with part 4 on Davram Bashir.